It's Wednesday. It's Uncovered. I'm Anthony Davis. He's Ron Filipkowski. And together we uncover the MAGA propaganda that is not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. There has been a shift, Ron, since we last got together, and that is that there was an inauguration and there is a new president. Joe Biden has gone.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and there's this new guy, Orange Fanta, whatever he's called, is now the new president of the United States, and he did not waste any time in scaring the living bejesus out of pretty much anybody who is not white, male, and straight and rich. I don't even know where to start, really. I mean, I know where to start because we have a running order, but I emotionally don't really know where to start.
Yeah, we were all joking about the President Musk thing, because Musk was is spending so much time around Trump and they've been inseparable since the election. But, I was really thinking about it today as he's rolling out those executive orders, and it really made me tweet. I said, we're kind of off base with that, because the reality is this is President Stephen Miller. Like, really, this is Stephen Miller's administration. All of these executive orders come straight from him in conjunction with Project 2025, but a lot of this is straight Miller stuff. They're his ideas, they're his words, they're his orders. I mean, you can even see Trump sitting there in the Oval Office as he's being handed things like, what is this? And they're giving him like a one sentence, this is about this. Okay. Right. And he signs it. I mean, these are all being typed up by Stephen Miller, and they've been typed up for weeks. Like these have all been ready to go. And, as I'm reading them, they all track all the videos that were put out in 2023. I mean, it's all the same stuff. So none of this has come as a surprise to me.
Right.
Although apparently with the reaction from a lot of American people, it's coming as a surprise to a lot of voters, because I've seen the new Reuters poll just came out that like 59% are against his pardons. Only 27% in the new poll said that they agree with everything he's doing with DOJ and federal law enforcement agencies. And again, it's what we talked about during the campaign. There was this big chunk of people who voted for Trump because they thought they were getting, cheaper eggs and other things, deport migrants and cheaper eggs, and they're getting this whole basket of stuff that I think they didn't even know about, unfortunately. And despite our best efforts to put that information out to the public, a lot of them just never got it.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to employ the phrase told you so, but told you so. We were relentless in our coverage of what was going to happen. Part of the problem is that, people don't have the time to read 900 pages of Project 2025, and a lot of people just don't want to take our word for it, or anybody's word for it, who has been trying to blow the whistle on what was about to happen. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm just saddened because I can feel that people are scared. And that is his intention. And I think maybe we should caveat all of this, with that his intention is to terrify people. That is how the authoritarian works. He wants us to recoil in fear, and we don't have to. This is the point. He's still a coward. He is still an idiot. But it's just that office, that seat of power that he now sits in, has changed the dynamic somewhat.
I read lots of comments from various platforms, thousands of them every single day. Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, X, Substack, thousands of them every day. So, and I can tell you that the mood has changed, because I think that, to me, there was much more depression and anxiety leading up to him taking office. And then there was a bit of anger for, 24 hours or so. And now there's a mood shift. There's a vibe shift. And the vibe is defiance.
Yes.
So many of the comments have shifted from, I don't think I can take 4 years of this, I'm giving up, to I'm pissed off and I'm ready to fight. What can we do? And that's been very encouraging, because you're right. He does want to intimidate. He does want people to check out. He does want people to give up. But this man is Oz behind the curtain. He's a fraud. He's a fake. He's a phony. And you have to play offense with this guy. You can't, he wants you on defense. These people, the MAGA movement, they are not good on defending. They're only good attacking. And now they're in a position where they have to defend. And people like me, I don't have to spend 50% of my time debunking right-wing conspiracies about Biden or having to respond to them blaming Biden for this and Biden for that. I now am somewhat liberated by the fact that I can spend 100% of my time on offense attacking and 0% of the time defending. And that's what all of us need to do right now.
And some of these executive orders, they are doing a disservice to the Republicans who voted for him. I mean, today saying, you have to stop the federal government will stop all communication on health issues. I mean, what if there's a pandemic? What if there's a major kind of food issue, some kind of contamination issue? Like, what is he trying to do to American people? It's like, we're going to get into the weeds of it in a bit, but maybe we should start with him and his false promises, because no event is more of an example than his position on Ukraine. I could end that war in 24 hours. I could do it before I even got into office. I'll do it on day one, all that stuff. And here we are now, 3 days into his premiership, and still no word on the war in Ukraine, no word about his friendship with Vladimir Putin or any of that stuff. In fact, you put a montage together, and America loves a montage. Let's take a look.
Could end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I could.
How would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well.
I'll end that war between those two countries in 24 hours. It won't even take that long. I will get the war ended. I'll stop all of those lives from being wasted and lost. And there'll be no more bombing of Ukraine. There'll be no more bombing of Russia. And everybody will be happy.
It can be negotiated, I think, within 24 hours. It really has to be done from the office of the president. And you have to get them both in a room. And there are things you can say to each one of them, which I won't reveal now, which will guarantee that this war will end immediately.
And that to get it solved, I can do it in 24 hours. I know both players, and I can do that in 24 hours. But you can only do it from the office of the president. You need that seat. You need what's tailed in that seat. And I would have that done in 24 hours. It wouldn't even be tough. I know what to say to each of them, and there's no way they would reject it.
I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. I would have a deal done in 24 hours from the time we started. And I would tell Zelensky something, and I would tell Putin something, and I'd get him into a room, and I'd tell him again and again. I would have a deal done very quickly.
He just thinks that he's still on The Apprentice, doesn't he? I mean, that's basically the life that he lives in his own head, is that he is the anchor, the host of a reality TV show called The United States of America, or The United States of The Apprentice. I mean, we didn't believe him beforehand, but a lot of his voters did.
That's right. They did. A lot of people believed all that nonsense. And he said it hundreds of times. Yeah. Like every rally. I mean, I only posted like 6 clips there. I could have posted 100. I mean, every rally, every interview, he guaranteed this. Occasionally, a right-wing interviewer would ask him, like, can you give any specifics? And, you just heard some of that there. Like, I'd just get him in the room and I'd talk to him, and they would make a deal and everything would stop. And, when he first said this, well, here's the other thing that's striking about this is that he knows every single time he's saying that, he knows he has no intention of doing this.
Right.
He can't do it. He isn't going to do it, and he won't do it. So literally he is sitting there knowingly lying to every single person he's talking to his base, his rally crowd. And he's saying, but I need the presidency first to do it. In other words, like, I can't tell you what it is now. the plan. You got to elect me president first, then I'll reveal it.
Yeah. It's
Well,
called
he revealed
blackmail,
it.
isn't it?
So what happened is, finally the media, after, I and others kept saying, hey, he promised 24 hours. It's been 24 hours. Finally, the media started asking some questions of Republicans and others saying, hey, what about that 24-hour promise? And so what happens today, this morning, because he had said nothing about Ukraine, nothing in his inaugural speech, nothing in his long 2 press conferences, not a word about Ukraine. So finally this morning he issues a statement and he says, okay, here's my plan. Russia better stop right now or I'm going to impose tariffs, which is a joke because we have our sanctions dialed up to 10 from the Biden administration. We aren't buying anything from Russia. We can't. We sanction everything from Russia already. So what is he going to put tariffs on? There's nothing coming here from Russia. Nobody's buying anything from Russia in the United States because of Biden. So tariffs on what? I mean, Putin just has to read that and just hysterically start laughing. And it just destroys all of Trump's, whatever credibility Trump had with Putin as far as like an adversary or whatever.
I don't think he ever had
ever
any
looked at
credibility.
it that way.
Yeah.
If he ever did, it's gone. Okay. So I know people believe that, Putin controls Trump and all that. Certainly possible. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just saying, assuming he didn't, and assuming that, Trump is a separate entity from Putin and Putin doesn't have blackmail on him and all that. Well, whatever little scintilla of credibility he had is now gone because Putin knows this guy's a fool.
Let me read aloud this Truth Social posting for our audio podcast listeners. This is how Donald Trump chooses to handle international diplomacy. So he posted on Truth Social, I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people and always had a very good relationship with President Putin, and this despite the radical left's Russia, Russia, Russia hoax. We must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. All of that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favor. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse if we don't make a deal, and soon I'll have no other choice but to put high level of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which was never have started if I were president, over with. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. And the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost. Find out next week on The Apprentice of America.
There's a lot he could have done to make it worse. Cut off aid, cut off intelligence, all that kind of stuff. But there's not really a whole lot he could have said in words to make this all worse.
No.
But he just pulled it off there. He just found
like a magician.
Annihilated the credibility of the United States government in one Truth Social post.
He knows as little about Russia as he knows about TikTok and China.
He loves the Russian people.
Or Taiwan. Loves the Russian people.
Yeah,
Look,
because he's traveled to Russia a lot and met all the people. That's how much he loves them.
Yeah.
Just like he loves people in like Alabama,
Puerto Rico,
because they voted for him. He doesn't know anybody in Alabama.
No.
It's like the guy it's just a fire hose of lie. Like everything he says is a lie. It's just comical. And again, Putin just has to look at this and goes, Are you serious? Like, so what's going to happen when we wake up tomorrow and the war is still going on and Putin just ignores this? Then what? Okay, you just threatened him with tariffs. Okay, all right, now I guess you got to impose the tariffs. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to give a 50% tariff on Russian vodka. Okay, well, nobody's
vodka
buying
and
Russian
Kalashnikovs. That'll be it. But I'm of the opinion.
I think Putin is going to react to the statement, and I predict he is going to laugh and make fun and clown Trump.
Yeah. Well, they'll be showing that Truth Social post on Russian state news and television
And laughing.
and ridiculing it, which is what they
Yep.
do.
Yep.
I've always been of the opinion that Trump and Putin are on the same team, and that Putin has a very long-term view, as Russia often does in these operations, these kind of psyops, using Donald Trump to his own end, getting Trump elected, helping Trump get elected twice in this case, and using him as a useful idiot. And so to me, Trump will never say a bad word about Putin or Russia, ever. He's still pushing the Russia hoax, despite the fact that if you actually take the time to read the Mueller report, you'll see that there is nothing hoaxy about it, and Trump is implicated. But I'm very much of the opinion that the media are taking their sweet merry time to recognize that Trump will criticize anybody in this country, or even our international allies, but Putin and Russia will never say a bad word about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely was somebody who used to subscribe to the theory, that he was compromised and that Putin had something on him, blackmail type stuff. I'm not sure I buy that anymore, but I agree with you completely that they are in agreement on most things. And
but it doesn't have to be
world.
compromat.
No,
the whole
it doesn't
PP
have to
tape
be.
thing. Yeah, the PP tape thing is, for me, is long gone. I'd care very little about that, and the less I think about it, the better. But what I do find fascinating is Donald Trump is a mentally ill man who looks up to dictators.
Yeah,
and so
that's what it is.
It's as simple as the fact that Putin is this despot, and Trump is desperate to be a despot.
Well,
and so that's all he needs.
And Putin, entered government with very little money and is now, arguably the richest person in the world.
Right.
By virtue of fleecing his country while president. And I think Trump admires that as well and intends to do very much the same
he's
thing.
He's already doing that because
doing it
by creating this oligarchy. I mean, Elon Musk now has an office in the White House. This is the plan, and all of these diktats. If you look into a lot of these executive actions and executive orders, they all seek to enrich the types of those senior tech people that were all at the inauguration, sitting in the front row. They had much better seats than the cabinet picks and lawmakers. Those are the people that are going to do very well. And Musk's plan to use AI and data mining to basically run the federal government and claim that that's an efficient way of doing it. All this is about to come out in the coming weeks and months.
And one thing that this has really showed us, if we didn't already see it before, is that the billionaire class really doesn't care about America. They're really not patriotic. And I guess maybe that shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody, because to become a billionaire, you typically have to be a multinational type trader person. You have to be doing business in multiple countries. And, you can't really believe in a lot of nationalism or sovereignty per se. So I think that what we see there is being laid out in front of our very eyes in a very obvious way, when maybe it wasn't always so obvious before, that these people will put all other considerations aside. Rule of law, national security, law and order, all those other kinds of things, stable society, they're all overridden by their ability to acquire vast amounts of wealth.
Well, they're irrelevant to them.
And Trump is facilitating their ability to do that, unlike any other president, probably since Calvin Coolidge, to let the robber barons, go wild. And they see that. And so what a lot of them could do is they could do what Mark Cuban said. Mark Cuban has done and said, look, I've got enough money. I'm fabulously wealthy. My business is doing well. I don't need to kowtow to this guy. And I think this guy's terrible and dangerous. But that's not what most of the rest of them are doing. Most of the rest of them are going, you know what? Hey, why do I give a shit if Stuart Rhodes gets pardoned? I'm making billions.
We have to put ourselves into the mindset of the billionaire class, who don't rely on anything that the government has to offer. If anything, they hate the government because they think they tax them too much. but they don't rely on any public services. They don't rely on any kind of support or entitlements. They're probably not taking Social Security. I mean, they have no interest in what the US government does for regular people, regular working people, and even the middle classes. It's of no interest to them. And I would like to think that people like Tim Cook have a conscience. I think Apple is a good company, and I think that they are on the right side of history, and they're close to carbon neutrality, and Tim Cook is a gay man himself, and so much of what they do is they do red products for raising money for AIDS Foundation, and I think of them as a good company. But to see him sitting there with Zuckerberg and the boss of Google, and I was just like, oh man. I mean, to me, it's just shareholders. That's kind of how I read it. It's like he's a conduit for the shareholders, and they want him at the party.
And I believe, I'm always an optimist. I believe there is going to come a time when Trump is going to be considered by the vast majority of Americans as the worst president we've ever had, the most corrupt. I think that it's going to happen during this administration, because I think he's just going to go completely crazy, as he's already doing, and he knows he has immunity and can't be prosecuted for anything, so he just doesn't care. And I think that all of these people right now who are getting in bed with him are going to rue the day when retribution and the backlash happens, and they're all going to claim, oh, well, I did what I had to do. Just like the women in the Netherlands we saw getting their heads shaved after it was the Nazis were kicked out, right? Because they collaborated with the Nazis. That's what's we're going to have a version of that here, where there is going to be a tremendous backlash and retribution against these people, I think. And they're all going to try and claim, well, I had no choice. I had to defend my company. I had to do what was in the best interest of my shareholders. And I don't think that the majority of people who at that point are going to be thoroughly disgusted with Trump and his gangsters are going to accept that. Now, again, I'm an optimist, so I know there's probably people out there going, that might never happen. But, I believe it will.
I mean, what you're describing suggests that we should have the equivalent of the Nuremberg trials.
I mean,
bring these people in after all this has died down and find out what the hell they were thinking.
I mean, not like in a sense of where we're looking to hang them, but
no, I'm not suggesting that, but just to get some sense
I mean, some
of
what we could have some congressional hearings that look like that. Yeah, sure. Where and we're going to have, I think, a lot of these CEOs in, years from now, I don't know how many years from now, but years from now, that are going to deny that they ever liked Trump, that they were ever close with him, that they were ever in cahoots with him. But you know what? We're not stupid. We all see what they're doing, and they're going to regret it, I believe, someday.
Yeah. Well, listen, Tim Apple, if you're listening, do the right thing and get your name right. Let's just stick with Doge just for the moment, because you have a theory on this. We touched on it a moment ago about this idea of the budget cutting and what it really means. And let me just show this. I think you posted. So Musk is using a budget-cutting committee as a front to gain access to classified information to gain a competitive advantage over his competitors, while the CCP is also one of his most important business partners, worth every penny of that PAC money. This is linked to, well, just explain who posted this and why you've taken this position.
This is a Washington Post reporter and their story about why Vivek Ramaswamy really left the Doge. Okay, so this is actually a quite interesting story because, watching this play out in real time, I was watching this very closely.
Yeah.
We saw stories that Trump was pushing Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to appoint Vivek to the J.D. Vance's Senate seat. And I'm sitting there going, something's going on here, because I thought Vivek was supposed to be serving in the Trump administration in Doge, and I don't think Trump really likes Vivek either. So why is he pushing him for Senate? And I think looking back on it now, we know that they wanted to get rid of him. Musk wanted to get rid of him, especially. And, he was hoping that maybe DeWine would take him off the hook there. And DeWine, of course, did not, because he appointed his lieutenant governor, who's this like close, loyal ally. He doesn't like Vivek. So then we find out that Vivek is leaving the Doge committee because now he's going to suddenly run for governor. Now, we know that he's been toying with running for governor for a while, but you don't announce you're running for governor 2 years out. Nobody does that. But he announces this now. And, the formal announcement is apparently going to be next week, 2 years out, which is crazy. But now we found out from this new report from Washington Post what was really going on behind the scenes, which is very believable and credible, which is that, the way this was sold to everyone, to the public, to everyone, was that the Doge was going to be about cutting government spending. And the promise, the mission was that they were going to cut 1/3 of the federal budget, $2 trillion, which all of us knew was impossible. There's only $1.7 million in non-entitlement spending in the entire budget. So how are they going to cut $2 million? So that was never going to happen. So it's like, well, what are these guys going to do? How is it going to work? Is this an advisory committee where it's going to be outside the government? Well, turns out all of that stuff I just said is what Vivek believed. He thought it was just going to be outside the government, an advisory committee, focus on cutting spending. But what he found out when he started going to these meetings with Musk was this is not what Musk has in mind at all.
Well, the clue is in the title, because they've called it Department of Government Efficiency. Well, it's not a department, as in a government department. It's not supposed to be in the government. And yet, here we are now, fast forward a few weeks, and it's basically Musk just wanting to have his own office in the White House next to Trump so he can access everything that he doesn't really have clearance for.
Because if it's outside the government, and you're just cutting costs, anybody can do that. I could put the federal budget in front of me and spend a few months and go line by line and start, redlining
too
things
boring.
out.
Too boring.
There's nothing to that, but Musk, the reason why what Musk laid out for Vivek is, no, this is not what we're doing. We're getting an office in the West Wing. We're getting top secret security clearances. We're getting access to AI. We're getting access to all this confidential classified information about businesses that involve and business competitors of Elon Musk. And so really now we find out what's really going on.
Well, do you remember he said a couple of days ago, and we're taking Doge to Mars. Just that line exposes his plan, because, of course, he is the one with the rocket that goes to Mars. He is the one with the NASA contracts. So those two, the government efficiency and taking Doge to Mars, they don't seem particularly compatible to me.
Well, no, because going to Mars is going to pour trillions of dollars down a rat hole for no reason. Right. It's just, his little fantasy, his video game fantasy. Who cares? Because he wants to make sure that Mars is habitable when this planet implodes or gets destroyed. He wants the human race to be able to evacuate to another planet. I'm not really concerned about that right now. I don't really want to bust the federal budget, and spend many trillions of dollars.
Well, he wants government money to make sure
games on Mars.
He wants to make sure that he can go to Mars when this planet
let him
implodes.
Spend his own money.
Yeah.
But really what we learn is like he just wants access to classified information so that he can have an advantage over his business competitors in multiple sectors, whether it's space, AI, tech, EVs. This gives him a massive advantage over his business competitors if he's conducting business from the White House with classified documents.
We also know that Musk has a direct line to Putin and has been communicating with him. Trump claims he has a direct line to Putin and has spoken with him, although the jury is out on that. But again, this compromises national security.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the other problem. We haven't even talked about this, but Musk's biggest business partner is the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, he has half of his Tesla company operates in China.
Right.
He buys all of his batteries and manufactures them for his vehicles in China. And so we have a guy whose biggest business partner is the Chinese government with access to top secret information. I mean, this is absolutely insane to even have a cabinet level official conducting private business from inside the White House. That's illegal. That's not allowed. You can't do that. But this is just obviously an administration where the laws are irrelevant to them. They don't matter. And they intend to do whatever they want and dare someone to stop them.
And Mark Elias or some group I heard today is actually going to be suing the government for Doge, saying they can't even call it Doge. And just so people feel, because, I just want I want to caveat my laughter with the fact that it's nervous laughter. I'm not happy about any of this stuff. I don't really know what to do or how to think about all of this, because it's like out of a crazy, evil Marvel movie with the baddies taking over the world, like Dr. Octopus, when kind of laughing maniacally and doing fascist salutes. But I recognize that there are groups that are going to be fighting all of this stuff on our behalf, that are going to be suing the federal government, that are going to be taking Trump to task on all of these executive orders. And they've already started. And it's important that we don't just bring bad news, but we remind people that there is a lot of good going on behind the scenes.
There have been some lawsuits filed about Doge and violating, a lot of the open government laws and things like that. Those have been filed in D.C. Multiple lawsuits have been filed challenging the birthright citizenship executive order. Those were filed in Massachusetts, where there are no Trump-appointed judges in that district. So obviously that's why it was chosen by the ACLU, who filed it along with 17 Democratic governors joined the ACLU's lawsuit, and that will be heard in court in New Hampshire. So so
he can't
Trump
do
country.
An executive. You can't just sit and write an executive order that says I'm ending birthright citizenship. It's nuts. It's illegal and it's nuts. He also, you may remember, said in that moment, we're the only country in the world that allows birthright citizenship, as you know. He did that affirmative thing again, where he tries to make people think that they should know it, and then they feel like, oh, should I know this? I think it's 30 or 33 other countries have birthright citizenship baked into their politics, into their constitution. 33 other countries. So the fact that he's saying no other country, and in fact, I should mention, I was listening to NPR when I was taking the kids to school this morning, and I heard Steve Inskeep, I think it was, talking about this, and he played that clip of Trump saying, as you know, there is no other birthright citizenship anywhere else, and he didn't correct it. He just moved on. And,
every time.
And, we need our public radio especially to be on top of this. Do not play Trump clips and not correct his lies. It just is basically supporting his propaganda. So dangerous.
That's a classic negotiating tactic, propaganda tactic is to finish your sentence by saying, that, as you know, and
as everyone knows.
I don't know if you've ever had conversations with people like that, because I have. They're the most annoying people to talk to, because in your head you're constantly saying, no, I don't know that.
Well, it makes you think you're going mad.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Like the reporters just simply have to stop him every single time and go, please don't tell me what I know. Please don't tell me what I know. Right. No, I don't know that.
But it also takes 10 seconds to Google how many countries in the world have birthright citizenship, and you'll get an immediate answer. Do it on your phone whilst you're walking and talking. It's like there is no excuse now with the amount of information that we carry around with us in our devices. There is no excuse for something as blatant as the new president lying about birthright citizenship around the world to go uncorrected. Simple. We should talk about TikTok at this moment. Talking of flip-flop. Did you see that chyron that was put up by Fox by mistake? They wrote TikTok backwards or something. Didn't they call it?
Oh yeah. I saw
What was it?
Yeah.
They wrote titcock or something.
Yeah.
By mistake.
Tit talk. Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah,
Genius.
So we're thinking about Jeff Bezos' girlfriend at the inauguration.
They were thinking about the shape of his rocket
with the lacy bra out.
Right. So I mean, just show this clip on Trump being asked why he changed his mind on TikTok. Here it is.
The U.S. essentially would be paid for doing that half of the value of TikTok.
Would there be a private sector owner as well?
Could be, yeah, could be a lot. Tell you what, every rich person has called me about TikTok.
You wanted to block TikTok. Why did you change your mind?
Because I got to use it. And remember, TikTok is largely about kids, young kids. If China's going to get information about young kids, I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, I think we have bigger problems than that. But you know, when you take a look at telephones that are made in China and all the other things that are made in China, military equipment made in China, TikTok, I think TikTok is not their biggest problem. But there's big value in TikTok if it gets approved. If it doesn't get approved, there's no value. So if we create that value, why aren't we entitled to like half?
Sir,
What the friggin' hell was this guy talking about?
I mean, it's all gangster stuff right there. I mean, you could just what he said. You have to go start from the back and start from the end and work backwards.
Yeah.
First of all, what he's saying is that if TikTok doesn't have access to the U.S. market, it's not worth very much. That is a correct statement of fact because TikTok doesn't even allow their own company to be in China, in their own country. So the U.S. market is by far the largest market for TikTok. It drives their revenue. So that is true. So what he's saying though is that if I decide to enforce this law, I've just made your many billion-dollar company virtually worthless or close to worthless. With a stroke of a pen, I can do that. This is what he's saying to them. But I have the power. If I don't enforce this law, now your company is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. I have that power to make your company either worthless or worth hundreds of billions. He even said could be worth trillions.
Yeah.
And then what does he say? Well, I don't necessarily need to enforce this law because even though all these Republicans in Congress were saying, you know, TikTok is the Chinese Communist Party can get everybody's data, it's all just a bunch of kids anyway. So who cares if the Chinese have kids' data? Because what data do they have that's really that important? So there's his justification. Then you get to the first part, which is the key part, which he said, a lot of rich people have called me about buying TikTok. So you see here, this is the way Trump's brain works. It's so obvious, the play here. He has the ability, to make this company worth nothing or worth $1 trillion. He has the excuse to justify doing either one. And he's got a lot of very wealthy people who want to buy in. And he's saying to the TikTok people, you need to sell half of your company. And the distraction is like that the US government is going to buy half. That's nonsense. That's a distraction. That's a shiny object. And reporters fall for this shit every time.
Yeah.
And so does the public. They go, oh, now they're all hung up on, can the US government purchase a company? He has no intention of having the United States buy half of TikTok. He has intentions of forcing them to sell at least half the company to his friends.
Right.
And then he gets a cut. How does he get a cut? There's a million ways that they can give him a big chunk. So again, he is using the power of the presidency to enrich his friends and enrich himself by saying, I'll enforce this law like I'm supposed to, or I won't. It depends how much money you give me. What are you going to do for me? It's like The Godfather on a grand scale.
Well, he would call it the art of the deal. We would call it blackmail. And this is, I mean, remember all those hours and hours of hearings that we sat through with the Republicans claiming that TikTok was some kind of Chinese intelligence thing, and
they're not saying anything now.
They're not saying it now, and
they've all gone silent.
And the CEO,
they were yelling and screaming right up until the moment that Joe Biden got in a helicopter and flew away.
Yeah.
From that moment on, not one Republican has said a word about TikTok.
And I presume that in cahoots with the Trump administration, TikTok did go dark for 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, that was a scam.
Right. And then
I predicted that last week.
Right. And then they put a graphic up on the app that says, thanks to President Trump, TikTok can now be used again in the United States.
And you know what? I think that actually backfired on him.
Yeah,
because
I agree
it
with
was
that.
so obvious. It was so ham-fisted. And, we have our guys on TikTok that are all our big TikTokers with Midas. We got a whole bunch of them that are on there every day. And I'm not on there. They're trying to get me to go on there. I want no part of it because that's not my scene. Okay. Yeah. But, they report back to me what's going on with all the viral influencers, and what they said. They were worried as hell about this. And I predicted last week on this show that they were going to shut it off for a day, turn it back on, and Trump was going to say, I saved TikTok. And that is exactly what happened. Exactly what I said a week ago is exactly what happened. But the problem is they weren't subtle about it.
No.
They should have just said, oh, we're very stressed out. We don't know if this is going to be. And then Trump should have came in and just said, you know what, I'm going to delay this and we're going to try to work this out. But they were so obvious about it. We're turning this off because of Biden. And then 24 hours later, turn it back on and say, thanks to Trump, he saved TikTok. And I think a lot of the big influencers on TikTok looked at this and said, maybe it's time for us to start looking at another app for our creative stuff.
Well, Trump has taken on too much in his first 48 hours. And so the cracks very much do appear. And I think that in this plan that he has to barrage us with all of these executive actions and this strongman approach, remember his face during the inauguration. The guy didn't crack a smile once. He was doing the same face that he wore for his official portrait, but also for his mugshot in Fulton County. Same face. And, I posted about the lack of humanity and humility, but also the lack of mental wellness. Because if you're being inaugurated the President of the United States for the first or the second or the third time, it's irrelevant. You are going to be present. You are going to physically enjoy it. You are going to be like, yeah, I'm the man. He couldn't even do that. He was giving us like the full Vladimir Putin face throughout. Or it was actually more of a Stalin face, actually. And
that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about that, but now that you mention it, that's a good point. There was no joy there whatsoever. There was a look like, I'm going to get all of you.
I'm coming back for you. This is the retribution phase. Yeah.
For how you slighted me. Yeah. Now is my revenge. And he's showing that's the case. And here's the thing. We knew that this was coming. I mean, maybe we didn't know all of it, but we knew 90% of it. We're not shocked by any of this, but I believe that there is a big chunk of the American electorate who don't pay attention very much, who are a bit shocked right now and who are a bit reeling, going, he really pardoned all those guys who beat cops and he really is doing all this stuff. And, rounding up migrants. They're talking about going into school classrooms and hauling migrant kids out of the classrooms. And, they ask Homan about, I know we're rambling here, but they ask Homan about it. Like, don't you think that that's going to disrupt schools if you have ICE agents dragging, 8-year-olds out of classrooms? And he said, well, yeah, it's going to disrupt schools, but this is about national security. I think the American public is going, what? Like, really? I thought we were getting cheaper eggs.
Yeah, I just hope so. I really pray that people's conscience comes forward, because yes, the price of eggs as a thing, which is we're gonna use that reference now for the next 4 years, undoubtedly, and eggs will continue to skyrocket, I have no doubt. But I recognize
avian flu outbreak in North Carolina and South Carolina. By
that's
the way,
right.
egg
Yeah,
prices are going up.
Yeah.
So everybody can watch the egg prices.
Well, that's right. People's pets have been dying as a result of this. So it is very serious. But again, we mentioned this before. When Biden was being criticized for the price of eggs, nobody mentioned the cull of all the chickens for avian flu the first time. So, the reality is going to kick in. Listen, we have to take a quick break. We haven't even dealt with Elon Musk and his salute yet. We'll do that. We also need to look at this incredible bishop out of D.C. who stood up to Trump, and a whole lot more. We'll do that next here on Uncovered. Don't you wish you had a secret weapon? Something that always impresses, a recipe maybe, or even a piece of clothing? Well, a secret weapon is a great asset to have in your back pocket. It helps you get ahead in life, and that is how Mack Weldon thinks about clothing. As a secret weapon. Timeless, classic style that's infused with performance fabrics and hidden details. I love my Ace full-zip hooded sweatshirt in a charcoal heather grey. It keeps me warm, makes me feel more confident, because it's quality clothing. Mack Weldon apparel gives you understated good looks for understated confidence. Not flashy, just classic, always in style, and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They look like regular clothes, but they feel like the latest in modern comfort. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code UNCOVERED. That's MACKWELDON.com. Promo code UNCOVERED. Looking to take charge of your life with full mental clarity this new year? Enhance your sober January and embrace CBD Awareness Month with VIA to experience the powerful benefits of hemp without the high. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, VIA is the Swiss Army knife of wellness, dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to create high-quality wellness products. VIA's collection of THC-free products combines minor cannabinoids like CBD, CBG, and CBN with botanical supplements for targeted effects that you can actually feel, whether you're looking to improve your sleep, your focus, or relief. VIA has something for you. VIA is also well-renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flower, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And this is the best part. VIA legally ships to nearly all states in the US in discreet packaging, delivered directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. So, if you're 21 plus, check out our link to VIA's website in our description and use code UNCOVERED for 15% off. And if you're new to VIA, get a free gift of your choice. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. This year, enhance your everyday with VIA. Welcome back. Yes, links in the description below to our sponsors. Please do check those out. So before we move on, we should probably deal with the elephant in the room, and that is Elon Musk and his unsavory behavior at this event. That it was like an inauguration event after the inauguration, wasn't it, that he kind of popped along to?
Victory party.
Because they had so many things. They had the ball, and they had this, and they had that, and we had Melania's hat that was designed to stop her husband from kissing her skin, like all sorts of stuff.
This
happened.
is the only one that like the general public could go to.
Okay, well, he picked the right one then to show us his true colors. I'm not going to show the clip because it's quite offensive, but I'll certainly show a still of it like this, and we can see what has been causing so much controversy. What's your take on this? I mean, you wrote concerning when you posted it online, but how do you feel now?
Yeah, well, I did that to mock Musk because that's one of Musk's favorite comments when he wants to amplify something.
Yes.
And he's not sure if it's accurate or true or not, but he wants everyone to see it anyway. That's what he does. He'll go concerning. Like, he's not saying like, this is true, this is false.
Yeah,
he's just
not
saying,
endorsing.
I'm concerned about this. I don't know. It's like a Susan Collins kind of thing. I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I post like Musk just did a Nazi salute, like many people did, I don't know if he's gonna like ban my account or I'm not afraid of Musk per se, but like that's going pretty far to say that. So I thought, what's a clever way to make the point while also trolling Musk and making sure everybody sees it, the best way possible, because he could rig his algorithm to tamp down anything that says Nazi and Musk in it, and no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
So it's a way to defeat the algorithm. It's just something, if you're a little sophisticated, you do. So that's what I did. So as far as like what it was, look, I mean, we all know that he puts out Nazi adjacent stuff. I mean, he just endorsed basically the Nazi Party of Germany. This comes very bad timing for him, by the way, because this was major news in Germany. Yes. Major news. It was all over German media, and their election is in 2 weeks. And he endorsed basically the right-wing Nazi Party in Germany. So this move does not help the people that he endorsed in Germany. Okay, put it that way.
And he just had the leader of the AfD on Twitter doing a live Q&A with her.
Right.
So, it's not just a mild endorsement, because remember, he posted a couple of weeks ago, only the AfD can save Germany.
That's right.
But he's now actually got the leader coming on X and he's promoting her in the same way that he promoted Donald Trump. And
this is not helpful to them. I mean, they are probably looking at this like, oh my God, he just blew this for us, So because of the backlash in Germany, I think people in Germany are even more upset about it than people in the US.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you go through this whole thing of, was it really a Nazi salute? There's two different defenses that they've put out there, right wingers, and Musk hasn't said much. That either he's saying my heart, because he pounded his chest first with his fist.
It was a flat hand.
Like that.
Yeah.
Right. Flat hand, and went like that. And so half of the right wingers are defending him, saying he was saying, my heart goes out to you, something like that. The other half are saying that it was a Roman salute because he's always been obsessed with Roman history. He gets a lot of it wrong, but he's always read a lot of Roman history and talks about it a lot. So maybe he was doing an ancient Roman salute. Well, I've seen him in public many times. I've never seen him do this before. So it's very strange timing that, Trump is inaugurated. He's going into the government. This is their big victory party with all the MAGA faithful there. And this is the move. And sometimes people do this stuff intentionally, but have plausible deniability and say, oh, he might have meant it that way to signal to them, because that's really the question. Really the question with all of this is the same thing with Trump telling people, you got to have the courage, we got to fight like hell or you're not going to have a country anymore. And again, he has plausible deniability. Well, yeah. I wasn't saying actually literally fight, right? So it's the same thing here, which is what's really important is not trying to like prove his intent. It's to look at the reaction of the audience. And that's really what did they think about it?
Well, we should certainly look at the reaction of the Nazis that were paying attention, because all of these far-right extremist Nazi sympathizers who are online, who run these different groups, organizations and chat rooms and everything, they all posted in their celebration of this move.
That's right.
And that really is what we should be worried about. Whether he intended it or not is not the point. It's how it was received. The other thing that's important to mention is what was he actually saying just before he did it? And he was talking about getting rid of all of the immigrants.
Yep, that's right. That's right. That was basically, because again, he had no prepared speech. So he was up there just rambling about that. So it's concerning. which is why I captioned it. You know, the funny part is too, is like all the other people on the left who captioned that as a Hitler Nazi salute, all the right wingers went after them, and they did not go after me because of my concerning caption. So that was kind of nice that it worked, because it went viral. It got millions of views, but at the same time, you know, I didn't get crushed by the algorithm and by the right wing brigade because of how I captioned it. And that's sort of an example of how you can use social media in a clever way to defeat an algorithm that's designed to stop you.
Yeah. I'm not on X anymore. I closed my accounts. But when I had the account, I made sure I blocked everybody, including Elon Musk, that would ever find my stuff offensive.
I want to comment on that for a second.
Yeah.
You know, it's not on our topic list here,
Go
but
on.
I was talking to the boys about this. You know, so many people have fled on the left. So many people have fled X for Blue Sky, right?
Yeah.
26 million, I think, is the number now. So the people that are left on Blue Sky, which may not be anyone in this audience, I mean, left on X, who may not be anyone in this audience except me, they're like hardcore SOB Democrats, man. Like, there's no snowflakes left. It is a snowflake free zone on X. Every Democrat who is left there is an absolute badass, you know, is an absolute warrior, fearless, because look, we're heavily outnumbered. And the owner of the platform, you know, is rigging everything against us, and you get swarmed and abused and threatened and everything else. So if you're a Democrat and you're still there, you have to be tough. And so I'll say this, like, it's almost like it's a much smaller group. I don't have all my friends and allies on there, but the ones I do have take no shit. You know, so that's good.
Well, in contrast, I'm enjoying the Blue Sky, because it really is blue sky.
Nice.
Like, that's how it feels. I'm like, nice. Yes.
It's so nice to switch over there, I gotta tell you.
I just don't have the head for conflict. I don't need it, you know? Anyway, let's talk about a couple of things to talk about. I was going to talk about the pardons, but just before that, because we mentioned Musk and celebrating the immigration executive orders and all of this stuff, and it's been pretty terrifying. I mean, they shut the app down. That, you know, you've got all of these immigrants that have been given court dates. They're now just gone. They had appointments. Those now have gone. The app isn't working anymore. Like, all of this stuff has happened within a few hours of Trump taking office, which is, you know, it's really, it's just evil, really. That's the way I see it. It's just evil.
And people are not showing up to work this week. Like, I saw one thing put out by a farm worker union that said that the first day that Trump took office, 25% of his employees did not show up for work. This is out in California on a lot of the agricultural farms. And day two, yesterday, 75% of the workers didn't show up. So I'm a little surprised by this fact that it seems like a lot of migrants were in denial about this, or we're in the dark. We're not informed. I think a lot of them truly believed, like, somehow we'll figure this out. And
are you talking about the Hispanic community that voted for Donald Trump?
No, not necessarily. No. I'm saying just the ones who couldn't vote. You know, the actual migrants who came here, who have pending asylum claims. I really think that they thought, like, the U.S. is a country of laws. It's not like the countries we
believe in
from.
Humanity, right?
Yeah, and so these are good people. Like, everything's going to be all right. It's going to be fine. Because I'm surprised that more of them didn't leave after the election. I really truly believe there was going to be a mass exodus. What the Republicans were saying, they expected self-deportations is the word that they used. They expected millions of migrants to leave after the election so that they would not have to deport so many. But it didn't happen. Only a small handful left.
Well, because people
and you
live
have to ask,
here.
why is that? Why did they stay? Because I think, like, they have no place to go back to now.
But this is my point. They live here. They have assimilated. They have jobs and they have homes and they have family because they are American. They are American. It might not say that in their passport, but they are American. And this is the fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans care about money, and Democrats care about people. And in my view, it's as simple as that. And the reason there is so much contradiction right now is because Donald Trump is now coming out after scaring the living daylights out of everybody and saying, we have to mass deport migrant workers, but actually we need them because they make good wine waiters. Let's take a look.
The program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters. You got to get the best people.
And he's talking about the H-1B visa at this point. I mean, this is the contradiction, isn't it?
This is the vaccine all over again.
Yeah.
It's the same. How this is playing out is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Where, Musk convinced him to come out in favor of the H-1B visas, which Musk uses a lot in his companies, right? To expand them. And Trump did and got tremendous backlash and kind of stopped talking about it. Same as the vaccines. He used to try and brag about the vaccines and he got booed a couple times at his rallies and he stopped doing it. And so, but here, you have a reporter who pinned him down and asked him, and, this was yesterday. He comes out with this lame, well, I've used it myself. How have you used it? Well, I brought in wine experts, sommelier. He was trying to find the word in his brain.
Is he confusing sommelier with Somalia? Is that what's going on?
He just said wine expert because he didn't know the word.
Here's what
he said, and high-end waiters. See what he's saying is, in America, we don't have enough good people who could be high-end waiters. They can wait tables at Cracker Barrel or the Waffle House, but they can't work in my restaurants. They're too high-end. So I need to bring in people from France and UK and the Netherlands and Norway to be waiters in my restaurants because Americans aren't. And you know who posted that clip, who I got it from? I didn't catch that live. Nick Fuentes, who's the leader of the white nationalists, posted that, was pissed off when he heard. So that's who I got it from, because they're mad. They're saying, here goes Trump again. What the hell is he talking about? He can't get Americans to wait tables in his restaurants. We're not good enough. So this is the conundrum for Trump. I mean, if he was smart, he would just stop talking about this and move away from this quickly. But, I don't know.
He's not smart enough to shut his own mouth.
Yeah.
He did the same talking about TikTok at the Resolute desk. He literally has no inner monologue. And, he is proving to be, whether it be the dementia and the sundowning, or whether it just be the fact that he's just dumb, that he cannot get his head around any of these stories. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's being given executive orders. He's signing them because he just wants to play the role of the despot, the dictator, try and get into the good books of Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin so he can have hamburgers with them, so he can go off and play golf. I mean, he's 1 foot on the golf course at all times, this guy.
But you know what the consistent theme was from the White House press corps, who was sitting there in that room asking those questions? They didn't come out and say, this guy's nuts. This guy's bonkers. He said this crazy. No. What I read from them, a bunch of them, was, wow, isn't this refreshing? A president who actually takes questions from us in the Oval Office. Joe Biden never did this.
Yeah.
Joe Biden never granted us this kind of access.
Yeah.
So that was... that was the takeaway from the White House press corps. A lot of them, not all, but a lot of them, was
the fact that
how great this is that they get access.
The fact that he's bonkers and that the stuff he says is completely insane with no pushback doesn't get covered. But, let's just repeat his propaganda. Let's talk about these pardons. I mean, the mainstream media has been obsessed with this, and understandably, but, there's a whole lot more to talk about as well. I posted 2,000 mules or 1,500 pardons. This is where we're at now. It's become like an insane conspiracy. In one breath, Donald Trump is saying he's closing the border to protect us from dangerous criminals. And on the very same day, he says, I am going to pardon 1,500 dangerous criminals, set them back into society, including Enrique Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes. These people were serving 23 and 18 years for seditious conspiracy and for stockpiling weapons in D.C. ahead of January 6. And yet, no, to him, they've been unfairly treated. This is the criminals have somehow, this is like a prison riot to me. This is like the criminals have managed to get the keys to the prison and are running riot, and Trump is the leader.
And this episode really shows you vividly how Trump operates vis-a-vis his base, and how their movement works, the interplay between him and the MAGA influencers and the MAGA base. Because I've always said, you cannot understand Trump unless you understand the MAGA base and you pay attention to the MAGA base. And that's the mistake so many people make, so many pundits, so many journalists make, is they pay no attention to the MAGA base when Donald Trump does what they tell him to do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
That is the fundamental mistake people make when they analyze Trump. And we saw it here because during the campaign, he pledged to pardon J6ers, but he would never be specific. Reporters would ask him, are you saying the ones who beat cops? He said, we're going to look at them all on a case-by-case basis. Then a week before taking office, he allows someone in his inner circle to leak to the New York Times that he's going to pardon 1,100 defendants. Now, what do we know about that number when we look at that number? It was pretty quick for everybody to figure out. 1,100 of the defendants were nonviolent offenders. 400 of them were charged with violence or destruction of property or seditious conspiracy. So it was pretty obvious that what he decided to do there was he's going to just pardon nonviolence. But he leaks that for a reason. And we saw him do this with abortion. We saw him do this with the vaccine, one issue after another. If he thinks that something is going to be controversial with his base, with his own supporters, he will have a surrogate or someone leak it to them and sit back and watch their reaction. And that's what he did here. It was leaked, and the reaction was very, very bad.
Yeah.
They all went nuts.
Yeah.
This is a betrayal. You got to pardon all of them. You know, all the usual suspects in
the
Congress,
ones that attacked police officers, all of them.
So Trump is getting all this. Boom, 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 boom. The base hates this. The base hates this. You know, and then according to the reporting, by CNN, he just last minute just said, fuck it. That was his word.
Yeah.
We're pardoning all of them.
Yeah.
And so he surrendered to his base. It was his base that pardoned Stuart Rhodes and Enrique Tarrio. He signed it, but they forced his hand on that. And you can really learn a lot by how and telegraphing what Trump is going to do by watching them, because they are going to tell you a week or two ahead of time what he's going to do. And that's what happened here. And, you know, here's the other problem is that, you know, he also had J.D. Vance go on the Sunday shows on Fox.
Let's look at that clip.
He's only going to pardon nonviolence.
Let's take a look.
January 6 pardons, President Trump says there's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
All right, the president.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Fanone would necessarily agree with that. In fact, he's one of the police officers that has come out and said how betrayed he feels by the president. Should we not just for a moment explain what a commutation is supposed to be for? Because that's quite
I can do
important
that,
here,
but
isn't it?
Yeah, I can do that. But just for 1 second, what we see right there is that was 11 days ago.
Yes.
And Vance was thrown under the bus by Trump.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
That's going to happen a lot, though, Ron, isn't it?
Exactly. This is how he's going to use Vance.
Yeah.
Is he's going to tell Vance, this is what we're doing. Okay, team, come on in here. This is what we're doing. Go on Fox, because Vance is like his point man to go on the Sunday shows. That's what Vance does. He goes on Sunday shows. So he says, okay, here's the prep. Okay, come on in here. This is what we're doing. We're only pardoning the nonviolence. So Vance goes on Fox and is adamant, like, no, we're not going to pardon anybody who did violence. And then 1 week later, Trump pulls the rug out from under Vance and throws him under the bus. This is going to happen time and time again. He used Vance in that scenario. So that's another interesting dynamic. You see how Trump manipulates people.
Vance is going to get sick of that, though, isn't he? There's going to come a point.
Think if you're Vance, who has future presidential aspirations, like, I just look like shit. Thanks a lot, Donnie. So now the commutation, so the difference between a pardon and a commutation is, if you get a pardon, that means you're essentially put back where you were before the day before you were arrested. All the files are sealed, deleted. It's like you were found not guilty and never charged. And if someone asks you on a job application, have you ever been convicted? You can say no. It erases the conviction. A commutation is different. And most of the like the top defendants who got like 20 something years, they got commutations, right? So in other words, it's still on their record. They're still convicted felons. They still can't do certain things. And they still have to tell employers about it, but they get out of jail and they're done with their sentence and they don't have to do any more time. Only a small handful got commutations. Everyone, 99% of them got full pardons.
If we just, because the thing is, we're so used to Trump being insane that we just cover this stuff. But let's just be absolutely clear what's happening here. A president of the United States, newly sworn in, who himself has been accused by the Justice Department of multiple crimes. He managed to get immunity through back channels with his MAGA Republican friends on the Supreme Court that he placed there, is pardoning his own. He's pardoning criminals on day one of his presidency because he knows that he put them up to this. We're going to fight like hell. Come to the Capitol. I'm going to go with you. You're not going to have a country anymore. He put them up to this as the last-ditch attempt to try and steal the 2020 election. That's basically what's happened here. And I think it's easy to lose sight of the timeline and the storyline, is that we have a criminal president pardoning criminals on day one. If you didn't think he was a criminal president, if that wasn't your opinion, what do you think now?
And he's got them all back out on the street to do his bidding again for whatever that might happen to be.
It's his MAGA army.
He's got his militia back out on the streets,
Yeah.
right? And also in doing this, he threw so many Republicans in the Senate and the House under the bus too,
Right.
because so many of them are on record as saying, I would be against any pardons of anyone who committed violence. And now they have to deal with the fact that their party leader, who they're terrified of, has just done it. And so microphones are being stuck in all of their faces right now. Take someone like Susan Collins, who's got to run for re-election in Maine in 20 months, right? Democratic state, she's got to run. She's always pulled it out by coming across as a moderate. These pardons are deeply unpopular in Maine. So, and she's come out and said, I'm against pardons for now. So she's now got to somehow, defend these things in DC in front of Trump and around, and also run for re-election in a Democratic state, having defended this stuff. He's putting these people in very difficult positions politically.
Right. He doesn't really care about any of it, though. This is the thing. He just doesn't care.
He does not care. You're right.
Just wants to play the golf and just get this stuff done because Stephen Miller's telling him to, and Steve Bannon's telling him to do that. And up the chain it goes. Peter Thiel's up there rubbing his hands. Vladimir Putin's above him rubbing his hands. the chain of command. We should mention a couple of names, actually. Is this guy Jake Chansley? He is. He's the guy with the horns.
That's right.
Right. So he posted, "I just got the news from my lawyer. I got a pardon, baby. Thank you, President Trump. Now I'm going to buy some motherfucking guns," is what he posted on, I presume that's Twitter.
My caption there was my tribute to you.
Yeah. Lovely.
It's very British, right?
Very, very British. Lovely.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it was, the best tweets to me are one word. That's all you got to say. Lovely. Just lovely. His first reaction upon getting the news that he is pardoned is,
he's gonna
I gotta buy some guns.
Buy some guns.
And he wasn't the only one.
No.
And so a bunch of them posted that. So it's
I saw,
it's not like, oh, I'm gonna now be able to travel to another country I always wanted to go to, or oh, now I can get that job I always wanted that I couldn't before because I was a felon. Oh no, it's I need to go buy some guns. Very encouraging.
Am I right in saying that the DOJ sends out an automated text message to people who have been on the receiving end of violent acts to say that the person that committed the crime against you has been released from jail?
Almost all states do that.
Right. And so I was seeing some screen grabs of people's phones who were victims of the January 6th attack, police officers. And there was hundreds of automated texts from the DOJ saying, because 1,500 people had just been released from prison, basically filling up their text messages saying that all of these people were now out and you should go into hiding, effectively, just be vigilant. This is, I mean, again, I always make Batman references. I'm a big fan of the Batman Dark Knight movies. And I always just think about those henchmen and the Gotham City as the backdrop and the baddies versus the goodies. And I just see all of these characters, including the guy with the horns, Mr. Chansley, just like laughing. They've all got something wrong with them, scars and bits missing. Stuart Rhodes with the eye patch and all this stuff.
Shot his own eye out.
Shot himself in the eye. Yes, genius. And I really do feel like that's what it is. It's like that scene at the, halfway through the movie where the prison gates, Bane lets everybody out and they all just run riot over Gotham City.
Yeah. Everybody you saw in that crowd who stormed the Capitol and beat the cops all just got out of jail. Right. It's just like, it's a very good analogy. That's actually the picture I got in my head too.
Right.
And I think
where's Batman though?
Very few people expected it. This is definitely one where he surprised people.
Yeah.
I think even some of the J6ers had given up, the violent ones had given up. They thought, I don't think he's going to do it. And then he did, every single one of them. And I think that really, really shocked a lot of people. And, I guess the question is it going to hurt him politically? Because look, there's a lot of big battles and a lot of big votes that are going to happen this year, and the Republicans have almost no majority to play with. So you take a look at the Senate, and you have people like Lisa Murkowski, who's furious right now at Trump for some of these executive orders, Susan Collins, multiple other people. And so Trump needs their votes on a lot of his stuff, his tax cuts, his budget. And he's burning political capital and burning bridges with them. And, their only reason why they're still on board is because they're afraid of him. But there's going to be a cost benefit analysis where they're going to have to make the assessment of like, if we keep going along with all this stuff, we're going to need to fear our voters more than we fear Trump.
Right. The fear of Trump is the theme of this presidency. That's why I feel that all of these cabinet positions will probably be ratified, Pete Hegseth and all of these nutcases, it's all bowing down to Trump. And you know what the most chilling moment of the inauguration was for me? I don't know if you saw it, I'm sure you did, was when Chief Justice Roberts kind of approaches him after he hasn't put his hand on the Bible. We should mention that Trump didn't swear on the Bible, and I'm sure that was intentional. But Trump pointed at Chief Justice Roberts. Did you see that moment where he looked at him and he was like, got ya.
I'm watching you.
Yeah.
I'm watching you.
Chilling.
You better not disappoint me.
Right.
That's what he was saying.
Right. Or what
And he knows that Roberts is a weak man.
Yeah.
And can be intimidated. So
that was freaking weird. I was like, whoa. I was like, I am watching, aside from Trump not emoting or smiling or being present, he was just in his head the whole time, as we said earlier. But this weird point to the Chief Justice, who had just presided over the ceremony. Some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen, Ron. I'm struggling with what to think some mornings when I wake up, and it's only the third day.
I wonder, who is going to be, because Democrats can yell and scream all they want. It doesn't matter.
I wish they would.
Doesn't matter.
I'm still waiting for some screaming Democrats. I want to know who Batman is. Who's Batman?
For who is going to be the Mitt Romney? Who is going to be the Adam Kinzinger? Who is going to be the first Republican to break ranks and stand up and verbally and vocally and adamantly criticize him and take him on? Haven't happened yet. Haven't seen one yet.
Oh, no, but they have. They have. And it brings us on to our final subject.
Oh.
It was a female bishop that was prepared to stand up.
Oh, well, that's not a Republican. I'm talking about a Republican in Congress.
No, the only person that is prepared to stand up on a podium, on a pedestal, and take on the might and the fear of Donald Trump in his second day in office.
To his face.
To his face was the softly spoken, beautiful delivery from this bishop in this DC church of a ceremony that Trump and his family were forced to go to. I have no doubt they didn't want to go, right?
Oh yeah, this is something everybody does, tradition. He won't go again. He won't go back to the National Cathedral, and he put out a very nasty, long Truth Social post about her this morning, where he was trashing her. And then he had his allies like Robert Jeffress, some of his evangelical political pastor, megachurch people trashing her, when all she talked about is love and not hating people and all of that. It wasn't but the way they're acting, it was the most vicious thing in the world.
I know.
It was the most vicious thing in the world because it's the first time that someone besides Kamala Harris at the debate has criticized him to his face. He's not used to that. That never happens to him.
It wasn't even criticism, though. She was asking him to have compassion.
But he certainly took it that way.
He took it that way.
No one ever talks to Trump's face like that. No one. We saw Kamala do it.
Yeah.
And it was very effective. And we just saw a bishop do it.
I'm gonna play the clip in its entirety. It's about 2.5 minutes. If you haven't seen it, this might be the only thing you need to watch this year. if you're done with news coverage, make this the only thing you watch. Here it is.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and our good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Amen, indeed.
Just watching looking at their faces.
The squirming. I could hear sphincters contracting during that sequence.
They were just in agony. You know, you could just see them all. Every one of them. The whole Trump clan. They're
Tiffany,
I can't believe. You could see they wanted to get up and walk out so bad.
What do you think JD said to his wife?
I don't know, but I think she really didn't want to hear it. You know,
right.
She was
Agreed.
one of the few that was like, I'm listening to this. I'm not sure that she 100% agrees with Trump on all this stuff, on all this immigration stuff. So yeah, it was I mean, Trump walked out and the reporter yelled at him, "What did you think of the sermon?"
Yeah.
He said, "I thought it was terrible." You know, he immediately was not happy, you know,
yeah.
And so it was pretty funny. And you know, it's also funny to hear the right wingers complain on the grounds that this was political, you know, this wasn't really biblical. It's I listen to their prayers at these Trump rallies all the time. It's all about Trump, you know. There's not a whole lot of Jesus happening in their prayers.
But this is it.
It's
who do you worship? And clearly the cult of Trump and the MAGA brainwashing is that even God and Jesus have been superseded by Trump the God. You worship Trump and Trump alone, and anything said bad about Trump is blasphemous. And that's kind of how they reacted.
Yep, that's right. That's right. This is you know, and let's not forget the other elephant in the room here, which is this is a woman. You know,
right.
That made it much worse for them that this is coming from a woman, you know, and he had to sit there and listen to it.
To say that this incoming administration, or that is here, this regime, is anything other than racist, misogynistic, bigoted, and fascistic, effectively, would be to deny the reality that we are all seeing with our own eyes. Whether it be Elon Musk goose-stepping and hiling, or whether it, you know, and supporting the far-right Nazi-sympathizing party in Germany and pushing that propaganda online, or the systematic removal. I mean, Trump today announced that all the DEI has been removed from the federal government.
Further than that, the equal employment opportunity thing
all
has
gone.
Been the law since 1965.
All gone.
Right.
This is pure racism. And it is something that we're going to have to get used to. And, you know, it's just very hard to reconcile the fact that this is America. This is America. This is a country built by immigrants and by slaves. Trump rewrote history, I noticed, in his inauguration address. Talked about the building of America. Didn't mention the immigrants, didn't mention the slaves. And that, again, was intentional. this whole experience that you and I and the rest of this 350 or 330 million people are about to experience is steeped in hatred and bigotry. And it's all about white supremacy. That is what we are experiencing.
He's saying,
yeah,
we were a white Christian country once, and we are going to return to that.
Yeah.
That's what Make America Great means again. Means really.
Yeah. Okay, we have to finish. Ron, I'm grateful to you for your time and for your work. And please keep an eye on MidasTouch.com, Midas News, Midas News Plus, all these opportunities to get information. You can find me here, of course, on Midas Touch, also on 5 Minute News. And we will return next Wednesday and do more uncovering of this stuff. We send you our love, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. My heart is right here. My hand stays right here on my heart. And I'll catch you next week, Ron. All the very best to you.
All right. See you next week.